Hi folks, it's Ron with Ideal. In this video, I'm going to show you one way to make a box offset bend in a half-inch piece of EMT conduit here using a hand conduit bender from Ideal. Now, a box offset bend is needed anytime an electrician needs to feed an electrical box with a piece of conduit like this one over here, okay? And the deal is the knockout on the side of the box is not flush with the back of the box. Hence, the conduit must be bent in a slight shape like that so it can be inserted into the conduit fitting on the side of the box. Now, this allows the conduit to be mounted flush up against the wall or the concrete and without putting any undue stress on the conduit fitting or on the box itself. Generally, a 10-degree offset bend is used to create this box offset. There's actually two 10-degree bends you're going to put into conduit. And many contractors in the field have done this enough that they're just going to make a couple marks on that conduit and they're going to have that offset bent before you even know it, okay? But if you remember my video on offset bends, a certain shrink amount and a certain multiplier is used to create all of the different offsets that you're working with, okay? Now, on a 10-degree offset bend, the shrink amount is only about 1/16 of an inch for every inch of obstruction you're going to go over, and the multiplier is 6, which is going to be used to calculate the distance between the two bends or the two marks I'm going to make on my conduit. Now, on a typical electrical outlet box, the knockout's about 3/8 of an inch away from the back of the box. Now, that becomes the height of the obstruction that we're going to need to overcome, okay? So 6 times 3/8 of an inch is 2 1/4 inches, and that becomes the distance between the two bends or the two marks I'm going to make on this piece of conduit. And in this case, the shrink amount is so small, it's not even a factor we weren't going to worry about, okay? Now, to make the box offset on the end of a piece of conduit, I'm actually going to make 2 marks on the end of the conduit. And step 1 is to make the first mark about 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches away from the end of the conduit. If I make the mark, right close at the end of the conduit, the hook on the bender may actually deform the round shape of the conduit, and then the conduit that's not going to fit inside the box, or the fitting is on the side of the box, okay? So contractors generally use a pencil to make that mark on the conduit so it can be erased later down the road. In my example, I'm going to use a permanent marker, and I'm going to mark the conduit all the way around the conduit, and that way the mark on the conduit will not get lost in the bender head when I'm doing my bending here in another minute or so, okay? Now, for the 3/8 inch offset, we calculated the distance between the two bends to be 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to make a second mark on my conduit at 2 1/4 inches away from that first mark on the conduit, okay? And again, I'm going to mark the conduit all the way around, all right? Now, offset bends are done in the air, not on the ground. So very simply, you're going to take your conduit bender, you're going to point the handle down like that with the head kind of closer to you here. And then step 2 is to insert that conduit into the bender head, and you're going to line up that first mark with the arrow on the side of the bender, okay? Then bend your knees slightly like that, kind of lower your center of gravity, place one foot up against the bender boot down there so it doesn't slide on you when you make the bend, and tilt the bender a little bit away from me. And then using constant pressure, I'm going to bend that first bend to 10 degrees. Now, when do you know you're at 10 degrees? Well, again, the bottom of the conduit will be even with that 10-degree mark on the side of the bender head, okay? Now, step 3 is to slide the conduit down to the second mark, okay? And again, line up the second mark with the arrow on the side of the bender head. And then you're going to rotate the conduit 180 degrees, okay? And you're going to line up the two bends using the handle on the bender here to line up the two different bends. And then using constant pressure again, I'm going to bend that to, again, 10 degrees. Okay, very good. Now, this creates the box offset in that conduit that allows that to easily slide into the conduit fitting on the side of the box.